Yeehaw! Howdy there, partners. We're about ready to have ourselves a shootout. It's gonna be the first annual DSLR
versus iPhone
versus
mirrorless.
versus the Samsung digital telephone.
Join us.
It's gonna be a hoot, man.
There's only one thing that we love more than eating food with chopsticks, and that's photography.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Panoptic Chopstick Show, where we are going on, let me pull out my chopsticks, going on a photo shootout. Today. I love a good shootout.
I love a good shootout. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So
what do we got here today? What are we doing on our shootout?
So here's what we keep hearing from everybody, and you've been telling me this lately. You keep going like, "Hey, Mark, you've got this great new phone. Why don't you take pictures with it?" Because it's not my camera.
That's right.
So I always hear everybody telling me these days, "Why should I carry my big old camera when my phone takes just as good of photos?"
And it does take great photos.
It takes great photos.
I mean, since you got this newer phone, you realized, that's pretty good.
But I'm the first to say, nah, it can't take it as good as my DSLR.
All right, so we're going to put that to the test today.
Exactly.
On the shootout. We're going to head out to the lake in just a minute on our photo walk. Yep. And we're going to take with us, what are we taking with us today?
So we're going to take the Nikon 610. So it's a full frame camera, but it's not the high end,
right.
The 810.
It's a good choice to use.
Good choice to use. We determined that the iPhones and the Samsung phones have about a 30 millimeter depth of field. Yep. So we'll put a 30 millimeter focal point on there, or plane, lens, whatever it's called.
610.
610. Samsung, the S7. So we'll take the S7. This has been undisputed as one of the best cameras inside on a telephone.
And then we've got, I love how you say that. This is my telephone. It's a smartphone.
I can drop the accent
right,
now.
You can drop the accent. We've got our iPhone 6S.
Yes.
And then also using the Fuji mirrorless, which is a little camera I love. But let's load up our walk here.
So we got different size sensors. We got all kinds of stuff.
Let's take these out to the lake and do a little walk here.
Okay.
In our photo walk and do a good old fashioned shootout.
All right.
Come with us. To actually see these results because I'm very interested to see.
Tell me, what do you think we're gonna find? Do you think we're gonna find that they're very similar? I think it's gonna be a stark difference. I think it's gonna be like,
honestly, I keep saying use your phone, but I think this should be the clear winner. The Fuji's probably gonna do good. I don't know between the phones like who's gonna win, but even the phones in between them, I'm just interested to see what happens.
Exactly.
So you got the files loaded up on your computer. We just got back in, popped them in your computer. What do we have here?
All right, so what I've got here is I've got 4 images up in Photoshop. We haven't done anything to any of these images. We shot everything in JPEG in our DSLR and our mirrorless. So we have apples to apples here. Yep. Now, I've got them all zoomed into this particular rock at 500%, and there's a nice little bush or something growing out near a crack in that rock. I think this one, again, we're going to start zoomed in a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like the big test at 500%. This is like printing this thing, this big up on a wall, which you're never going to do.
So which is which here? What do we...
So I don't want to actually tell you which is which yet. So, starting from the top, we go around clockwise. We go top left is going to be number 1. The top right, number 2. Bottom right, number 3. Bottom left, number 4. So going from, 1 to 4... Initially, what's your first...
Well, initially, my thought is they really don't look that different. I mean, I'm actually surprised.
They all look bad.
They all look bad zoomed in at 500%. I mean, they all look kind of pixelated and blocky. It's not what I would say, woo, I want to hang that on my wall.
Yeah. But number 3, obviously, is the clear winner as far as the most detail. But yet, when I look at it, it's blurry.
It is blurry. Why is that?
because it's this big in the photo and it's at 500%. In a minute, we'll zoom out here and we'll see why. But, looking around, the top left,
Yep.
I see some detail, but it's very blocky detail.
It almost reminds me of, like, if you took a chisel, the painter's chisel,
Yeah.
when they're not using a brush.
Like a palette knife.
Yeah, the palette knife, and they're kind of making one of those chisel palette type paintings. That's kind of what that one looks like to me.
Yep.
The one next to it, it
To
looks
the right.
okay. To the right it's just a little smeary, but I
And,
like
and
the
I
color.
think you've just got darker shadows in there.
Yeah, but the color looks probably the most realistic from what I saw.
Uh-huh.
The one on the bottom left is just, I don't know.
Okay.
It's blurry, but
So here's how they lay out. Top left is the Samsung S7.
okay.
To the right, top right, is the Fuji. The bottom right is the Nikon 610. Bottom left is the iPhone.
It's interesting.
6S.
So what I'm interested in is when we zoom back out, is like what do they look like? I mean,
All
is
right.
it a usable
So
picture?
let's go ahead and let's zoom out on all of these images. Hold down our Alt key and we'll zoom out. Since this is kind of a raw talk section, if you look next to your plus and minus up here at the top,
You're in Photoshop.
we're
right?
in
Okay.
Photoshop now. This is our zoom in, zoom out. We've got another resize the windows. Then we have a little box here that looks like two documents with a little eyeglass. That is when you click that, it zooms all of the documents together.
Okay.
So
I actually
looking at
never
them.
done that before, so that's
We're looking at them all together here. So we're going to zoom out here to 50%. So everything is zoomed out at 50%. I'm going to grab my hand tool and let's go ahead and let's line those up so they all
now.
look
Now the interesting
similar.
when we shot these, they were all JPEG on purpose to keep things equal, and we actually turned both cameras, the mirrorless and the DSLR, onto full auto.
Yes.
We did that on purpose just because your iPhone and your Samsung phones, your Android and iOS, are going to run everything in auto as well. So these are running full auto mode.
Yeah.
Just to not make the picture better than it is.
So now that we've zoomed out, things start to come a little clearer.
They do.
You can actually see way back here is where that little stick was. So that's one of the reasons I think everything was so blurry.
Yeah, I mean, it was zoomed way out.
That was way.
So the
way
first thing
back
I noticed is the exposure on the one on the bottom right, which is the DSLR, the
Yep.
Nikon, is brighter,
Much
which is
brighter.
really interesting, just in auto mode.
Yep.
The other three look very similar, but they don't look bad.
They all look very usable.
I think I'm actually really pleasantly surprised at how good
Again,
all of them look. And
yeah.
they look better than I thought that they were going to look for.
I was really expecting like a stark difference. Like I was going to go, no way, you could never print these things. I'm looking at it going, I know what this camera could print. These ones don't look too bad next to it.
If you're printing a 16 by 20,
Yeah,
I'm going to use these.
sure.
If I'm printing a
11 by 14.
11 by 14, a 4
Yep.
by 6, whatever it is, those ones might actually come across pretty good.
Yeah, it still blows me away however it is, whether it's an algorithm or something inside these phones, how they can determine the light and dark areas.
If anybody out there knows the magic that goes into these phones, like how do they do what they're doing?
How do they get the exposure like they get it where we can't do it with these cameras?
I don't understand. If you do know, write in the comments below. I would actually love to hear maybe a kind of a technical reason of why they're so good. I know there's some kind of magic and software that they put in there, but
Yeah.
I am constantly blown away. I mean, like when we zoom that all the way out now here's the interesting thing is you can
Yes.
actually see the different ratios of the cameras. So we've got,
Like an 8:10 ratio from the phones.
but then I've got a different ratio for my mirrorless and then the full frame ratio
yeah.
for, and there, just looking at the picture, the one that's pleasing to my eye is this one just because it's exposed brighter. I can see more.
Correct.
But they all look.
But
from
when
that
we
distance,
zoomed in, it still looks good. Even if we zoom in to the foreground rock, I still say that they're all usable images. They're just...
It's really, really pretty amazing.
I start
So-
looking at...
Just give me what you think then. I mean, like a little conclusion then, just to answer the shootout question. I don't know that I can say, okay, the Samsung is better than the iPhone. Well, actually, the Samsung does look a little better than the iPhone.
Yeah, I really look at it as... It seems like the phones grab the exposure better to what we remember the scene because it looks like the Nikon is a little bit brighter than the rest of it.
It's probably too bright.
It's almost too bright. It may be a quarter of a stop or something too bright to a third of a stop. But, I see the Fuji has great detail. And then, you look at the phones, I think they're really neck and neck.
So real quick, yes, we kind of finish out this segment here. I mean, do you agree, though, at this point now that you need to take your Samsung, that this actually works really well in a pinch? Or more than a pinch?
Here's what it really boils down to is so often we overthink what we're going to do with the photos. 90% of the stuff's going to go on social media, especially the stuff that we're taking. Yeah, of course. We can do things with this control of light and all kinds with flashes and things that we can't do with these. But yeah, these right here, birthday parties.
Yeah, would I shoot a wedding with this? No way.
No.
Would I shoot a birthday party? Yeah. Would I shoot a lot of stuff on my vacation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I shoot my kids as they're riding their bicycle?
Yep.
Yeah.
Think of all those scenes where you just went, I don't know that I really want to get out of the car because the light's kind of flat, but I would like to get a picture to record it.
I use this as my historical device, right? So it's like, this is how I keep the history of my day.
Correct.
I'm not a big Snapchatter, but, I keep the history of my day going and just thousands of pictures on my phone.
But I think my mind has been changed today that I will be taking more photos with my phone knowing that I'm really not losing too much. Again, yes, I could shoot this in RAW and I can recover so much more detail. Yeah. So I know those of you who already are going, no, you can do so much more with the DSLR. We understand that. But just as far as snapshots and recording things, oh my goodness.
It's
how can you do that?
All right, so I think we can declare a winner to say, you know what? They're all winners. Even nowadays,
even our
these
phones.
Things actually kind of won the shootout for today, believe it or not. But take a look at these pictures, that we've showed you on the screen, and you can even look back and rewatch this.
And we'll put them on our Facebook page. We'll show you the original pictures. We have another shot of some close-ups of some flowers we did. We'll put those on our Facebook page so that you can compare it yourself.
That's right.
You make the decision.
You make the call.
You make the call. I knew that. I was thinking
that's what you're trying to say.
Hoi!
Fortunate questions.
Are you ready for today's fortunate question?
So. I am getting more and more impressed every week with your skills of fortune cookie grabbing.
Look at that.
All right, what do we got today?
You should see me eat pizza with these.
Marcos from San Diego.
Oh, nice.
He says, is it okay to use cheap memory cards? That's a nice quick one. Maybe not a quick answer, but a nice quick question.
You know what? Actually, it's kind of very timely because you and I had this discussion a few weeks ago.
We actually did in the car.
You've got some interesting... You have some cards now that are what speed?
I don't know. They're super fast. I mean, these are 1,000 speed cards. I mean,
the back of them even look different.
They do.
There's like two sets
They have two sets of connectors.
Yeah.
My 810 uses those. They're SDXH cards, so they have two sets of connectors. I have some feelings on the
Me
cheap
too.
cards.
If you're just asking like brand cheap, I would say, man, stick with a name brand. Stick with Lexar or a SanDisk. When you start getting into ones that have some kind of weird name or they came free with something, I don't know. I just don't trust them.
Well, here's my thing, right? Cards are so stinking cheap nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, I just bought another 64 gigabyte card for like $28 from Lexar, who's, I think is probably, that's what I use exclusively. I just like their cards. I trust them. But $28 for 64 gigs is nothing.
Yeah.
And I look at, these pictures are priceless to me, maybe not to everybody, but my pictures are priceless to me. I want to make sure that those pictures are on that card and safely there. I have had cards go bad. Mm-hmm. Never on a Lexar, never on a SanDisk, never on the better brands, but on the cheap ones. And you know what? It's painful.
It is.
I had to pay to get those pictures back on a recovery program. But to me, it was just like the stress of having those pictures disappear on a cheap card wasn't worth the extra $5 savings.
And so here's my other part of it is if brand's not the issue, if it's just a matter of you're going cheaper cards, what you have to be careful with is most of the cheap cards today, they're ones that are old cards. I was shooting with, at the time when I bought them, they were 45 time write speed or 45 megabytes per second that it could write. Those were really fast. And you can find those today. You can get them like $10 for, a 16 gig of one of those things. But I moved up to the 95 megabytes per second. What I was having was I would shoot a few pictures and my camera would like buffer, and it would take forever sometimes.
Yeah.
I put in new cards.
It's fast. It shows
Fast.
up. Right.
I've never had that happen since I went to the new cards. So there's an advantage to getting new cards. So if you're just thinking, I got these old cards and do I want to spend money? Spend money. And
So
get new
Marcos,
cards.
spend the extra $5. Get a better card.
And that's pretty hard, painful for me to say because you know how cheap I am.
Mark is doesn't open his wallet freely, but I got him to actually open his wallet for $5 more and buy a better card. But,
It is, and it was worth it.
But Marcus, great question. We appreciate it. We would like you to send in your questions weekly to us. You can actually just pop them right down in the comment section of
Yeah,
today's
we'd love to
video.
hear from you.
So hey, let's wrap up this show with a little food for thought.
Food for thought.
You got any thoughts?
I do. I was I shouldn't say pleasantly, I was surprised with the results that we got
I was
from
even kind of blown away.
the phone and the DSLR. It makes me rethink like what I think about phone photography. Mm-hmm. It's a real thing.
It is. You know, my brother, who is, this sounds kind of weird, but he shoots cemeteries, right, and headstones. And he shoots some amazing pictures when he's out shooting cemeteries. He visits cemeteries throughout the United States to capture.
We should link him below in his Instagram.
He's got a really
you guys
big
can follow him
Instagram
on
following
Instagram.
But he shoots with his iPhone. Now, he's got an iPhone Plus, right? So it's got a great camera in it too. But I am constantly blown away with the images that he gets. And he doesn't add a lot of the filtering stuff on there. He just comes right out. And he's the one that kind of got me to say, you know what? Your phone really does take good pictures. And I've been using it like crazy. And finally I got this guy.
I know. Got a
Start
new phone
using
just a
his,
couple weeks ago,
his phone.
and
So
I'm blown away.
I guess my final thought would be use it.
Yeah.
If that's the camera you got with you,
use it.
Definitely use
and
it.
I say use it, and don't be afraid to use it
Don't.
because it's pretty darn good.
but let me just say one quick.
Okay.
This is my final food for thought.
Final.
Okay. When you have your phone and your pictures are on here, I have 3,400 pictures on here right now. Right? That's scary to me because what happens if this falls in the river?
Back 'em up.
Please back them up. I've gotten now in the habit to just plug them in and downloading them to a hard drive. Back up your pictures. Back up all your pictures on your computer too.
Yep.
But with that, that was a fun little show.
It was. So what we'd like you to do is if you like the show, we want you to like and subscribe down below, and we will see you next time.
Next week, next Tuesday.
See you later.